Hello, everybody. Welcome to day number 3, guys. Day number 3 of the Strong, Healthy, and Empowered You online summit. I am really excited to be here with today's leader, today's guest, today's speaker, Lindsay Mango. Now, this woman is a powerhouse. Now, she's got the body, she's got the life, she's got the business. Here she is, and she's getting married really soon as well. I am really excited to bring her on to introduce her to you guys. I'm just going to make sure that I am in the She Collective. I believe I am. Hey, Sharon, how are you? Let me just double check. I am. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to bring Lindsay on. Yay! I'm so excited. We're doing it live in the group, Lindsay. So do you want to jump out of Zoom and we will do it right here? I'm just going to tag the group. So who knows Lindsay? Do you guys know Lindsay Mango? If you do, drop a yes in the comments. If you don't, let me know that you don't know her. Now, she's a life and a business coach. She is passionate about helping women and coaches have it all. She has quickly become a self-made entrepreneur who is currently scaling her business to $1 million. Holy moly. Now this woman is going to be fire. Let's invite Lindsay on with us. How are you, Victoria? How are you going? I hope you're going really, really well. Now, so Lindsay, if you can just jump on, on your phone, if you're on horizontal. Lindsay's amazing. I'm really, really excited to have her here with us today. I'm hoping that, yay!
Huh?
Hi!
Hi!
Welcome.
I am so good. How are you?
So good, thank you. I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to the summit.
Thanks. I'm so pumped to be here.
Well, I've just introduced you. So Lindsay's going to share a little bit about her story and share where she is now and what was that pivotal moment, that lesson that she learned to get to where she is today that we can apply in our life. But I believe you're going to help us with a few steps that we can implement in our life or our business.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so pumped. It's so funny. I don't know if you saw my story the other day. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. I accidentally washed my earbuds in the laundry, and so I was like, they're working. It's a miracle. And this morning they weren't working, so I was like, oh God. So I'm using Chris's. Hopefully they're working okay.
They're working fine. I don't know how you don't lose them.
You know what? I guess I have this rule. They like always go back in the case, and then the case always goes in my purse. But I guess washing them in the laundry is probably worse than losing them. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you've got Chris's.
Yeah, me too. I am so appreciative. Okay, should I jump in or
take it away. Take it away. Go.
Okay, so just a little bit about my story and my background to getting here. I graduated college, super excited, ready to take on the corporate world. I had an accounting degree, which is I always think is very funny because people are like, wait, you studied accounting? And I'm like, yeah, who knows? I don't know what happened there. But I got out of college and I was just ready to jump into the corporate world, and I started a job and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? This isn't what I want. And so I jumped around from job to job, and I always like to tell this part of my story because I think so many people connect with it. And I think as entrepreneurs and people who are passionate humans, we have this pull. We know when something isn't in alignment, and sometimes people feel guilty for like leaving things behind and bouncing around. And so I always like to share this part of my story because I think it's what led me here, right? And it was all an important piece of getting here. And so it's okay that I jumped around. So anyway, I get into the corporate world. I have like 7 corporate jobs, like year after year. I'm like, this is not the thing I want to do. Tried something else. And then I realized after like my 7th job that like the corporate world just wasn't for me. I realized I wanted to do something that I wanted to work on Sundays, like that I truly loved so much that I wasn't like running out of the office, like get me out of here. It's the weekend. And so I just like really started to become aware of this, and I would follow people on social media, and I'm like, what are these people doing? Like, how are they living life like this? I just don't understand. And I just remember thinking, like, if someone could just tell me how, like, if someone could just tell me how, I know I'm going to work my butt off. I know I'm going to, like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm ready, like, but I just don't know how to get there. Like, I know what my life, like, what I want it to look like. But again, I just felt so stuck. So that kind of led me to get into, I actually started in network marketing, and that kind of opened up so much opportunity for me. And then over time, I just started to realize that wasn't in alignment anymore either. And I came across this life coach, and I met her at a random networking event that I didn't know what she did. I actually thought she was going to be like a good referral partnership for the job I was in at the time.
Yeah.
So I met her for coffee though, and just set a meeting. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what do you do? And so I just like poured my heart out to her, like the minute I realized what she did. And I was like, this is what I imagined for my life. And I'm stuck here, here, and here. Can you help me? And again, kind of clueless as to what exactly we were going to do together. I just trusted and knew that she was going to help me and that I was ready. And again, I always like to share that part because I don't know how many people own businesses in in this group. I would guess a lot of them, most of them. But I find that a lot of coaches feel like it's required to explain, like, how is this going to happen? Or are people going to understand what I do? And I think what's so important is to understand that the right people don't even need to know how. They are just like waiting for the opportunity to change their life, and that the right ones will be ready to jump on that opportunity. Like even though like I wasn't even sure what it was going to look like, I just was so ready. And she was that breath of fresh air. So I walked out of there.
How long ago was this?
So that was probably 3.5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not long.
So no, not at all. In the whole scheme of things, not long at all. And so I walked out of the coffee shop, and I was like, I didn't have the extra money, to be honest. I knew my ex-boyfriend now, but my boyfriend at the time was going to lose it when I told him what I was going to invest in. But I was like, I'm doing it. Like when the student is ready, the teacher appears, like this is my chance. And so I hired her, and 3 months in, my perspective had changed so drastically that all of a sudden it just like, I have chills even now talking about it. I just was like, this is the thing that I've been searching for. Like if someone would have told me that coaching was a thing that existed 8 years ago, like I would have been all in. And so, and what's really cool about that is it wasn't that my life had changed that much yet. Like it wasn't like I got a new job and I, had a business making a bunch of money. It was that my perspective changed, and that changed my life. And so I also think it's important to share that, to me, that was enough to have credentials to start a coaching business, because I had taken a current reality that I wasn't super pumped about and I just felt frustrated with, and had the exact same circumstance, but saw it from a totally different place. And to me, that is the magic. That is transformation. The money, the success, the results that are a byproduct of that work, I knew would come. My perspective shift changed my life completely. And that was the moment that I knew I was meant to be a coach, and I launched my coaching business. And so if I'm talking too fast and you have questions as I keep going, just interrupt me.
No, that's okay. So Victoria just asked, and I actually wrote it down, Victoria. She said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I wrote that down as well. That is really, really very powerful.
It really, I love that saying, because I think for so long I was searching, but I wasn't ready. Like, I'm sure there were coaches out there. I'm sure that there were signs and there were humans, but like I wasn't quite ready to hear it and see it yet. And then the moment that I was, the right leader coach showed up in my world. And again, it took me, I think sometimes as business owners, we have to trust that our ideal clients, that our people are like on their journey and going to be ready at the perfect time. And it's not our job to force that. Like had I come across her 4 years earlier, I don't think I would have actually been frustrated with my life enough to like make that big investment. And so it took all of those pieces coming together at the perfect time to be like, okay, now I'm ready and here's my teacher and like, yeah, here's the opportunity.
And something that you just said there is like, you don't think you would have been frustrated enough. Like we have to get to a point to decide to change, don't we?
It took me, I mean, again, I had 7 or 8 corporate jobs. I had been in a couple long-term relationships, and I started to see with totally different men the same kind of things pop up for me in my experience. And so it took all of that for me to finally look in the mirror, because as a human, we want to blame other things, right? We want to blame our boyfriend or our significant other for not being X, Y, and Z and making us feel special. We want to blame our jobs or our bosses, and they're become a very easy scapegoat. And I think I did that without realizing it over time until the evidence became so clear that I had 8 different jobs with like different careers. I had different boyfriends, and I finally was willing to look in the mirror and go, what's the common denominator here? Like, it's me. And so, yes, those things are a reflection of what I allow into my life, but I'm allowing it. And that's where I was like, this is an inside job. And that's when I was truly ready to like, get that out of the way, to do the work and show up and be all in. And I think, yeah, I could have hired a coach earlier than that. And I would have, like, I'm a hard worker regardless, but I was so all in at that point that I wasn't going to give anything less than like my best and pour everything into it.
Can you talk a little bit on that, like that moment where you were ready to finally look in the mirror and start to look at yourself and how you needed to change and shift? Like, what was that like for you to go through that?
I just got chills because it's like, it sucks, right? Like, it doesn't feel good to all of a sudden be like, I've been blaming my boyfriend because he's not this and that, and I've been blaming all of these things, right? Like, it makes our ego feel better to not have us be the problem. And so it definitely had a moment of like, ooh, this like sucks. Like, maybe I'm the problem or I am the problem. But I will say, with that fleeting thought, I had never felt more empowered in my life. Because when you realize that you are the creator of all the things you're not happy about in your life, you also get to see that you were and are the creator of everything amazing in your life, and that you have power to change it. And when I realized that I had power to change everything, I was so excited to embark on that journey. And I felt like I had control instead of feeling like everything around me was in control of the life that I was living. And that felt so powerless. So again, it kind of stung, but it also was the most empowering moment of my life.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, like, so if anyone has any questions, please put them down in the comments for Lindsay. But were there things that like came up for you that were immediate, okay, I'm not available for this, like I choose to no longer be available for this in my life?
For sure. So when I hired my coach, it's so funny to think about now. I even tell my fiance stories like this, and he's like, I don't even know who you're talking about when I talk about myself. Because I used to be I was kind of a doormat. I was very like people please, like a puppy. Like I just like sat around waiting for my boyfriend at the time to tell me like if we had plans and, you know, if something was appropriate, like if I was allowed to do something, even though I was actually the one funding kind of our household at the time. And so in the moment of deciding to hire a coach, I literally became a different person, because I had to be willing to show up at home and go, like, you're going to be mad, like you're going to be uncomfortable, and like allow space for that, but still choose what I truly wanted from a place of belief, from a place of knowing. And so it was kind of like in that moment, I became unavailable for not pursuing what I really wanted based on other people's opinions of people that I really loved and cared about. And so that moment, like, I totally became unavailable for that. And of course I had my moments where I got scared, where we got in tons of arguments about it, but like I still kept showing up for that lesson. And so that was the first thing I really became unavailable for. And then over time, for me, I felt like I had changed my circumstances so many times that a part of my work was to lean into my current circumstances and learn all of the lessons instead of just like running away from my job again or just like dumping my boyfriend. I was like, okay, it's my job to show up for these lessons. I've allowed these things into my life. And so that, in a way, I became unavailable for just making everything else the problem and making me the problem. And I showed up for those lessons as well.
It's really powerful, but it's really scary. And when we talk about this, because that was kind of similar for myself, like I was the problem inside of where I was at and what I was experiencing in my life. How do you encourage women to lean into that, like to lean into themselves as being that common denominator?
I think it's really like the biggest part of what I teach in terms of like mindset and thought work and like showing up for those lessons. And so in my mind, it's always seeing that like we can't necessarily control circumstances, right? But like always making my clients, myself, and like holding people responsible for that. Like, yeah, your circumstance might be shit. Like it might suck, or you might have been dealt a really awful card or like hand of cards, whatever that thing is. But like always saying like, you get to change the way this entire situation feels. I think that inherently always puts the responsibility back on the person, back on. Oop, can you hear me okay? I think I cut out for a second. Are you good?
I'm good. We just dropped out.
Ooh, okay. So to see how it's, I forget where I was, but basically to see how like it's not about the circumstance, it's about your perspective. And I think inherently that always puts the responsibility back on the person. Like, why are we attracting this into our life? Why is this here? What is this here to teach us? What is my perspective on it? And that, again, like I said, it's like there's no room for making the circumstance responsible when you have that perspective.
So you're at this point, you've hired a life coach, and things are starting to change, things are starting to evolve. Not so much that like your life has actually changed a lot. Then what happened?
So I'm turning my Wi-Fi connection. So the day I launched my coaching business, I actually signed my first client. And I think that's always kind of crazy to hear. But I think for me, can you hear me? Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're a little bit distorted. No, you're back now.
Okay. Back now? Okay,
again?
maybe the computer helped. So I signed my client the first day I launched my coaching business because for me, it was literally becoming fully available for that and for that avenue. But I also was building a brand through my network marketing business. So of course that helped. And the moment it became available for like clients, like they started showing up. And so I signed my first client and I'm just like, I actually up level with my coach. I hire her for an even bigger investment. I'm just like ready to go. And and then I get to work. Like now that the vision has become so much more clear and I know exactly where I want to go, I just start getting to work while I'm working my corporate job. So I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going to the gym, working before I go to work, working. Shit. Is it still bad? Can you at least hear me?
It just dropped out. I can hear you. Can everybody else hear Lindsay? I think you're back now.
You think if I turned it off Wi-Fi and put it on like LTE, that would be easier or worse?
We can always try. We
Okay,
should
we can
always
always try
try.
it. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what we could do here to make this better.
Let's see. Lindsay's just dropped a little, but I think she'll be back now. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I think you're
Okay.
back. Okay. So
Okay, that feels better. Okay.
I think that's better. All right. So you got to work, first day, launched your coaching business, signed your first client on the first day that you launched your coaching business. Okay. This is amazing.
Yes. Yes. So then I just get to work and I am working my corporate job and I'm building my business. So I was saying that I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, went to the gym. My health's always been super important to me. Worked before I went to work, took coaching calls and consults during my lunch, did all the things, right? So I'm building my business and I end up having around 3 clients. And it's that point where you're like, okay, I can't leave I kept my job from a place of abundance. I wanted to fund, like I saw it as an investor for my business. I wanted to fund my coaching, like the investments I was making. And so it wasn't that point where I could leave my job yet, but it was like inching closer. And then my coach gave me an opportunity to do a VIP weekend in California. And it was a huge investment, an investment that I did not have money for. Like if you looked at, it was like $9,000 or something at the time, which now it would be like quadruple that. But I probably had $1,000 in my savings. I was paying my mortgage. Like I didn't have that money, but I said yes. And that commitment changed me because it committed me to finding a way to create money. And I actually felt like there was an intervention with my parents and my boyfriend. Like they legit thought I was like being sold into a cult. Like I remember crying in the car, being like trying to explain myself. And I just had to, like, I grew so much from that experience because of the discomfort of, not pleasing my parents and all of those things. But I did it. And so over 3 months, I earned that money. And literally 5 days before I left, I made the final payment and I flew to California, which is actually where I live now. So that's kind of crazy. And I showed up here totally, I didn't even know what I was going to do. And that was also an argument of my family and like the people that I love. They're like, do you even know what's going to happen there? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm just like committed to change. Who knows? So I show up and I'm just totally open and the experience is totally amazing, high vibe, like something I've never experienced in my life. But a lesson came out of it that I wasn't expecting. I was in a long-term relationship, and when I was here, I started to realize how happy my life was and the life I had built was without that person, and how I had created the experience that I wanted. And the night before the last day, out of nowhere, we weren't even coaching on it. It just like smacked me in the face. I remember watching the sunrise and just tears are like flowing out of my, I'm going to get a little emotional about it.
Oh, I've got
tears
goosebumps.
were just like pouring. Tears were just pouring down my face. And it's like in that moment, I had that deep knowing that like he was just no longer my person. And I just made that decision and I was like, I have to leave him. And I was like, I thought I was going to marry this man. And I loved his family. I was like a part of their world. I spent every like week with them, went to drinks with them when he wasn't there. And I just knew how hard the decision was going to be, but I just knew who I was growing into just was no longer aligned. And so that decision and who I became in that moment completely changed the trajectory of my business, of my life, of everything because of who I became, right? It wasn't about just ending the relationship. It was about like that decision was a reflection of who I'd grown into. And so I literally went home Sunday at like 11 p.m. He picked me up from the airport. And for me, I'm like, once I know something, I deeply know it. And I just had to make the decision. So I sat him down and I was like, this just isn't working for me anymore. And we parted ways. We lived together. And that all also changed the trajectory of, like I said, everything, because all of a sudden I let go of something that was no longer in alignment. And I signed 8. I remember when I went on that trip, I was like, I want to leave my job by January 1st. And it was like October. And that felt like a very like like this is like a shot in the dark. I really hope that happens, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. I made that decision, and within 4 weeks, I signed 8 clients and replaced my corporate salary. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I can leave my job. So I walk into my boss's office from there, and I told him, I put my notice in, and at the end of December, last day was December 31st, and I went full time in January.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Crazy.
So that decision, the woman that you came by making that decision, like inside of you, can you connect with like what really shifted? Was it like, I'm all in on this? Like, what was it for you?
I became a woman, and it always actually like, I had my own healing time with that. And I remember thinking, like kind of putting the responsibility partially on him, but also I realized that I had changed. Like he met a girl who just let him do whatever he wanted. And I'd grown into a woman who had new standards for herself, for business, for life, for everything. And so for me, the biggest thing that changed was that my standards of like life, of what I wanted out of life. I remember convincing myself for so long, even with my job before I'd gotten into coaching, like, this is just how it's going to be, like nobody's that happy, nobody's relationship is that good. And all of a sudden my standards had just elevated to such like this place of like, I want it all. Like I want the romance, I want the business, I want all the things. And so for me, internally, I just became somebody who, not from like a place of expectation, but kind of just expected so much more out of myself and out of life and my standards for it. And the way he showed up, he's a great guy, but he just wasn't in alignment with that. I just knew he wasn't in the pursuit of his best life, and that forever there would be this disconnect as I continued to grow.
Inside of that, because I know that this would probably resonate with some women, but like wanting more for yourself, wanting more for your family, wanting more, of your relationship and of your business, like raising these standards, there can be a lot of like guilt inside of actually wanting that.
Oh, totally.
And do I deserve that? I want it, but do I deserve that? What would you say to someone who might feel like that?
So funny. I actually just did a podcast about this yesterday, and I was talking about our desires, right? Like we usually think our desires have to be justified, or we have to have like this reason behind why we deserve more. And I definitely think I did have guilt. Like for a really long time when I was still dating him, I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't changing and that I was the same person, because felt like that was his constant argument with me. And then I finally just realized, like, I have changed. Like, I am a different person. And I think that one of the biggest things was just giving myself permission that, like, I wanted more, right? Like, again, what I was talking about with the podcast was I just talked about how just because you desire something is enough of a reason to, like, to have it. Like you don't have to justify it. It doesn't, doesn't have to be this, like, you don't have to give reasons why. I mean, of course we all have our reasons why, but like just because you desire it is enough of a reason to have it, to want it, to create it. And so that has always given me this sense of permission and kind of releasing that guilt, because I also think I have no judgment around people who don't desire so much more. Right? Like like it's okay. Like I've realized that everyone's desire is completely unique to them. And my ex-boyfriend's desire was totally different, and he's allowed to desire whatever he wants in life, but it doesn't have to be in my world. And that everyone has like their own unique desire. And if we all fulfilled that, like I truly believe if we all fulfilled our truest desires, like I think the world would be whole. Like, I think everyone would be pursuing their best life, whatever that looks like to them. And that I have no judgment around it being different for other people, but that it's okay that I want these things, that I'm meant to create them because I've felt pulled to do it for so long. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And I fully agree. Like, we don't have to justify it. So You are currently on the journey to $1 million business. Can you share a little bit with us about that? Like the mindset shifts that need to happen. This is going to take a new level of woman. Can you share a little bit with us about that? And I know you wanted to share a few tangible tips as well, like
Yeah,
with
we're
some
good.
ladies.
I mean, if we just want to keep asking questions, it's totally fine. So it's so interesting. I think at every level, what I've realized in business and in life is that we always get to the point where we think, when we're like ready to expand to the next level, when I'm ready to create my $1 million, that I thought like it was going to require something like massively different, right? Like just some crazy, new strategy, new technique, new thing, new whatever. And the thing that I've realized is that it's always the same work at a different level. Like scaling to $1 million has been about believing that the work I offer the world is enough to create it at that level. And believing at that level. So it's just been funny to me. I almost have to like wink or like laugh to myself when I like show up for the constant lessons as I'm growing and expanding my business to $1 million. Is that like I'm just showing up for the same lessons on a deeper level. I just have to believe even deeper that what I do is enough, that the work I offer is enough, that I'm enough to generate $1 million of impact and income. And that I don't have to be more. And so I think that the biggest thing is typically when we want to expand to new levels, we want to turn externally and think it's like about all the things like going on out here. And the biggest thing I can say is that it's been the biggest internal like work. And so yeah, I mean, it's just been amazing. And I think, again, it's been about really going all in for it. At every level, I believe it's about going all in. And that's come with having a fiance now and having to have the discussion of like holding the space for his maybe discomfort of me going all in and what that looks like, right? Whether that means investing at bigger levels, holding the space at bigger levels. Like we even had a conversation 2 months ago that really has changed and shifted like my scaling to $1 million, which was, I know this is going to be really uncomfortable. I'm making a really big investment that's like scary, but I have to hold the space for your discomfort and my own and believe so deeply that I can look you in the eyes and say, this is working. And I'm willing to like put everything on the line for it. And that was just like a whole new level of expansion at the $1 million level.
How does that feel inside of you, holding space for discomfort at such a big level? Like, what does that feel like? Because I mean, the level that I'm invested feels scary for me, but it's really not at the level. But I suppose you can kind of look at them comparable because it's stretching me for where I'm at.
Totally. And I think it's that is exactly the thing at each level, right? Like eventually what you're invested in energetically, financially, all of the things is going to become normal and comfortable. And like it's going to feel like still a stretch, but not quite as like scary anymore. And that's where the next level, right? Expanding into that new place. So it's kind of, I don't know if there's anything as scary as the first investment, to be completely honest, because that is a level of building trust that you haven't built before. And so I think for me, it's uncomfortable, it's scary, but I now have a lot of evidence that I've built through doing it over and over and over again to lean back on, to say, it feels like this every time. It feels uncomfortable. It feels scary. And it's my work to show up for this lesson over and over and over again. So it's totally uncomfortable. Like there's been moments when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm scared, or like I wake up in the morning and I have anxiety. But just reminding myself, this is normal, this is natural, this is a part of the growth. And I think the biggest thing for me is I'm huge on integrity, like doing the work that I ask my audience and my clients to do every single day. And so while it feels scary, I know it's exactly what my audience and my clients are experiencing all the time. And so showing up for that lesson becomes a little bit easier when I know it's not just about me. It's about doing it from a place of being able to look my clients in the eyes and look my audience in the eyes and know, like, how uncomfortable it is,
Yeah.
but that I'm still willing to do it.
And that you
so
have
that gives it a
done
little bit more purpose. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So as I said, so as you said, or as I said, you wanted to share a few like tangibles with everybody today, like things that they can
Yeah.
actually go and implement. So shall we dive into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And cut me off when I'm getting too long-winded if we're like,
No.
I don't even know what time it is. Oh, we're totally good. So my thing is, no matter where you are, right, we all kind of have this vision or this place that we want to go, whether that's a new level in business, whether that's starting a business, whether that's a new like place in your relationship. And I kind of talked about this early on in telling my story, that I knew what, like, I could envision kind of what I wanted, but again, I got stuck so much in like, how do I actually make this a reality? And so what I wanted to give everyone today was kind of a step-by-step process of the how, right? We get really stuck in the how. And so what I have found is, again, usually what we want is like somebody to say, step one, go talk to people. Step two, go do this. And that can be very valuable too, but this is kind of a process to turn inward and ask yourself, like, who do I have to become to make these results just like guaranteed? And so the 4 steps that I have, so whatever result you want to create, whatever you have a vision for in your life, the 4 steps are vision, vibe, alignment, and action. So literally you can take this equation and you can plug anything into it. So I'm going to go back to when I had this vision for my life of like, I wanted to work from anywhere. I wanted to do something I was passionate about. So what I would do for this first step was I would get really clear on my vision. Like I would sit with my eyes closed and like ask myself, if I like woke up and my life was everything I wanted it to be, what does it look like? Like really digging into that feeling, the feelings of that, and saying like, what does my bedroom look like? Who am I sleeping next to? What does my day look like? And like really getting super clear on that to a point where I can actually feel it in my body. So for any of you guys, right, like getting clear on your vision. And so maybe that's your first part of this work. Maybe you don't even know what you want yet. And so dreaming and having a clear vision is a practice, right? At some point we stop dreaming, we start to limit ourselves. So maybe you haven't even dreamed of anything for a really long time, and your homework or your work is just to start dreaming, letting your mind wander. When your mind goes, how is that going to happen? Or am I even the type of person, or I have kids, or whatever it is, starting to just like brush that away and say like, we don't need to worry about that right now. I'm just going to let my mind dream of possibility here. And so really taking your place to like, what does that vision look like? Then the next piece is vibe. And so to me, the vibe and the energy you're putting out into the world is a combination of your thoughts and your feelings. So once you have this clear vision, then I ask, what do I feel? I can tap into that a little bit quicker than my thinking around it. So I'm like, what do I feel in this moment? When I'm living this dream vision, when I have this dream result that I want, what 6 feelings bubble to the surface? I feel free. I feel abundant. I feel happy. I feel joy. Like, what are the main feelings that come up for you? And then combined with that, what are the thoughts that create those feelings? So let's just say the freedom, you've experienced freedom, right? The thoughts you have might be, I can do anything. Or, oh my gosh, I'm free to travel the world. Or I'm free to, take my family somewhere amazing. What thoughts do you have that create those feelings? That is your vibe. Now, the alignment piece is really important because there still feels like there's a gap, right? You're like, usually what happens is we go, okay, like this is all great. I have this vision. I know how I feel and think, but like this isn't my reality. Like I open my eyes for my vision and I see kids crying in the corner and my boss yelling at me at work. I have no freedom, and it can cause that dissonance, right? So here's where you can really make that connection. And this is literally this is what I did day in and day out, especially when I was at my job and my life was not aligning with what I really wanted. I identified those 5 feelings again. Like I would write them all down and I would say, how can I see that these feelings already exist in my life? And so I would say freedom. Where do I have freedom? I Like, I have freedom to choose that I show up at my job. Like, it is still a choice. I have freedom after my job. I get to explore. I have freedom on the weekends. Here's where I have freedom. And I would go through every single place and look for evidence of where it already existed. Because here's what happens. We all think, when I get there, then I'll be the confident woman I envision being. When I get there, then I'll be happy and feel all of these things. But here's what I will tell you, and this has become more than glaringly obvious now than ever before. I have everything I have ever wanted and ever dreamed of having in my life. And if I don't actively practice creating the way that I want to feel, our mind is literally wired to look for problems, to look for like what's not fitting. And even though my circumstance is everything, I still have to do this practice. And so it doesn't matter where you are. If you can learn how to nail this now, one, you're going to start showing up in a different way and just be magnetic to the people around you. But also you are going to be able to create your experience at all times. Like, I know that I can be happy in this beautiful home I live in 2 blocks from the beach. And I also know that I can be happy if I lived in a shack. Like, I'd want more, but I know that I am the generator and creator of that. And that's what makes you magnetic. And that's what allows you to create and attract the things that you want in your life. So I would literally go through every feeling and say, how can I, how is this already true? Where is there evidence that this already exists? Same thing with confidence, right? Some of you guys might be like, I'm not like those girls. I'm not confident. But where is there evidence that you are already confident in your life? There is somewhere. Right? You just have to look hard enough and you're not paying attention to it. So that's the alignment piece. Then the last thing is actions, right? So actions seal the deal. So then the question I ask is, what if I felt these things and I've created that by seeing evidence of it, what actions would I take from here? So if I felt the confidence that I envision having, if I feel the freedom that I envision having, what actions do I take? Do I get on social media and do I talk about, something that I want to teach? Do I run a free training? Do I tell everybody I know that I'm a coach? Do I exercise my freedom by, instead of, going home at night and like zoning out by watching TV, I take a bubble bath and read a book? Like, what actions do I take from this place? And then the work is about taking the actions. That's what creates the whole cycle and creates the next level. Because for me, I didn't even know, I didn't know exactly that my life was going to look like this, but I always knew how I wanted to feel. And I always worked on generating that and taking actions from there. And that always bridged the how. Like, I didn't need to know the how exactly. I just knew my job was to show up at a different level, and that's going to create different results.
So you're going to be taking this action. So what do you do in your world, in your mind, or coach your clients on when it comes to, because I know, for example, like a lot of clients that come to me, and even for myself, which I'm sure you also, might have, you go to take an action and then your lower self, the fears, they start to creep back in. What's your go-to when it comes to trying to vibe back into the feelings of that future focused woman?
So this is something that I've been recently practicing even more. I think sometimes we're very resistant. Like, when those fears and all of that come up, we're like, oh no, like, this is bad, right? We make it mean something terrible. And I like joke that, like, when we do that, it's like we have a monster hidden in the client. We're like trying to shut the door, but the monster is like still there. It's a silly example, but the monster is still there. And like, it's still driving all of our behavior. So for me, I think the best thing you can do is just like allow all of the drama, all of the fear to bubble to the surface and like shine light on it and basically be like, here it all is. Because here's the thing, these are all the fears and all of the things that are popping up are the things that you need to grow in. And it's like, it's basically just giving you the exact like spreadsheet of things that are holding you back. And this happens at every level. So I think like really giving your permission to be like, hey, this is okay. Like, all of this stuff is here. I feel afraid. Like, I'm just going to be willing to like open the door and look at all of the stuff and let it be there and be like, okay, like, this is an opportunity. So then I think after like welcoming it in, having the perspective of nothing's gone wrong. like, I always love the thought, like, of course this is scary and uncomfortable. Like, I've never done this before. This is helping me grow. And that to me gives it permission to be there, but then also realizing like I can still do the thing and be afraid. And I can still do the thing and feel fear and feel all of these things around it. And that I think also immediately helps you step into a new level, right? Because instead of letting the fear drive the car, you've now become the person who witnesses it and says like, this feels scary, this feels uncomfortable, and then says, and I'm going to do it anyway, because I know that this is a normal part of the process. Because again, I always thought like when I got to where I am today, like I thought it would be rainbows and butterflies and I wouldn't be afraid anymore and like all the things, but like I still am. And so the greatest lesson I've learned is just like, you are going to have negative emotions and fear and all of the things at every level. So the best thing you can do is get really resilient in like them being there and being like, yeah, I'm still afraid, but I'm also not going to let the fear drive my car. I'm also going to do, I think the biggest thing for me too is taking the action for the sake of taking the action and who you become in the process, not for the sake of getting a result. We get so attached to like, if I do my first live, it's got to be perfect and great. I don't care if it's perfect and great. I care that it's done, because by doing it, you literally grew into a different version. And if you focus on that, you will constantly be growing, and eventually the lives will be easy and you'll have the exact result that you want.
Yes.
So again, I think another perspective on that is just saying like, I'm just going to take the action for the sake of taking the action, because it's less about the result and more about who I become in the process. And of course it's going to feel scary and nerve-wracking, but like, I also love the thought, like, this is a part of like, it's almost like a club, right? This is a part of like the girl boss club. This is a part of growth. Like, I'm in the club and I'm doing scary shit, and that's okay and normal.
I love that. And I fully agree with you. It is definitely who you become while you're like doing the thing. So Victoria is asking you, do you have a daily routine? Which, yes.
So I'm a very interesting personality in that I'm definitely not like, I don't like super free flowing, like no schedule at all. Like that just, I don't enjoy that. That doesn't work for me, but I also don't like it to be so rigid that there's no freedom in it. So for me, I have a goal each day that I move my body. So like that allows me to feel like I have freedom to choose how I move my body, but I also set the tone that I'm going to move my body.
Yes.
I also have the standard of that I'm going to read or learn something today, whatever it is. So that gives me the freedom of choosing a podcast, of reading, of whatever it is. I also journal every day. So like if you follow me on Instagram, like I do some of the same things every day and I share about it, but sometimes they're at different times. They're not always in the morning. I mean, typically some of the things I do is journal in the morning. I meditate in the morning, and I'm really working on making that a daily practice. But again, I think the best thing you can do, at least from my perspective, is create a routine that works for you and that supports your life and the life you're wanting to create, but also like kind of your behavior, right? Because I think sometimes we all think like I remember thinking this too, like there's a magic sauce. Like if I do these 5 things, like that Lindsay tells me to do, or that Shannon tells me to do, like I'm golden, like I'm going to be there. But like all of our routines, or at least this is my perspective, my routine was born from a place of alignment for me and knowing what I needed in order to show up at my highest level. So again, like to me, that's daily movement, that's daily learning, that's daily journaling. And those are really the 3 consistent things in meditation. But how I do them kind of changes. And when I do them, sometimes changes.
I love that. I love it that you're flexible. Yeah, I love it that you're flexible with it. So does anyone have any final questions? If you do, pop them below. If you could leave everybody with one thought, besides all of the other thoughts,
oh my gosh,
what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Let me think for a second. I have 2. Is that allowed? Of course. Naturally, entrepreneur, I'm like, I'm not going to follow the rule here. I'm going to do something different. No. I think the first one is like, you are the creator of your reality. Like everything you do, everything you have right now is directly a result of what you have created. If you're not happy about it, like you get to create something different. And I think the other thing is like, just because you desire, kind of what I said earlier, just because you desire something is more than enough reason to have it. It's like, it means that you are worthy of having it. It means that you are capable of having it. And there's no reason to feel like guilty or ashamed of that. And you also don't have to feel, the other thing is, you don't have to feel like your life isn't enough. I think that was where I kind of fell into, like, I'm like, my inner talk would be like, why aren't you grateful for what you have? You should be happy. I think the thing is, like, you can be happy and you can be grateful for what you have, and you can still desire more.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited. We have just wrapped up day number 3 with Lindsay. Guys, don't forget, take a screenshot of us, go tag us, share us over on Instagram or on your Facebook, and let us know what your biggest takeaway was from today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And
thank you, Shannon.
Of course. Bye, everybody.
Bye.